Dola Benja so Tayantan, Gade, Para Gade, Para Song, Body so Tayantan, Gade, Para Song, Gade, so Body so Ola so Simja Tamjaka to Tojalana Majeva Sanje Komar and Boja Chineja Tobarcha. And the each of the Elbe Janju Samba Lajana, Trisha, the Nam Lawa, Shingo, Shimba, Tugo, Tola, Tujeshu, Manoa, Kodu, and Kazubawa, and Kasola, Geshe Shiwalas, which you do in the Tesha Tibini, sometimes.
And so through setting our motivation as we normally do to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment to benefit all sentient beings. And in order to attain that state, we must, of course, perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. And to perfect those trainings in turn, we must have a good understanding, which can only come from an unmistaken source of those teachings. And so it is with this in mind that we are here this morning to hear a little of the great mind training text, the king of mind training texts, known as the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by the great master Shantideva. And as normal also, we set up the merit field in the space in front of us, and that includes in essence, our own root guru, in the aspect of the greatly compassionate and skilled and means one, the Shakyamuni Buddha. And all around us are all kind mother sentient beings without exception.
And Ranga doing said of Lama Tuga on Body, and it's a Jiwa on cover, Jamba Amo, Tuga Hongo was some setup, and Tuga Hole, and we say part of Meba to the Shingra Janebe, and Ishiva only the Java Chanta, Ishiva the Lama Tuga on Naba Chella, only on which you to the Mujo, which in the
And then focusing on the merit field figure in front, the figure of the Guru Manindra Shakyamuni Buddha. He is marked by 3 syllables, a white Om at the crown, the red A at the throat, and the blue Hung at the heart center. And from that blue Hung, the light rays emanate, going out into the pure realms, inviting the wisdom beings and the empowering deities. The wisdom beings dissolve into that central figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which overflows and spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya.
Lama Tube Ombo set up Lama Tube Ombo Yunden Temshimbergan and set up the kitchen by Lugi Loni don't have the Gonlechua and the Casodata, Lumbina Latabe, and the Shajatuba. Dobashaja what that what the Luju on Jam was more to Sangi, Tomango to Sigma, Tomango to Basanja, what was Sanja Yune Shebe Cone, and what to each. What the catching we but what the conversation and the little body and the Caso de Marazu to the Tuki, Marazu to the Lamla, Marazu to the Mobas of Sanja Tinci, and what did you but and the Marazu to Tosa Janka Tento and the Mosubokora. And they show you something what the Kumbacha.
And so that in reminder, it's extremely important to remember the figure that we are visualizing, not so much in terms of there being an historical entity born in Lumbini over 2,500 years ago, but rather that we are bringing to mind, visualizing the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha in terms of the qualities that they embody of their enlightenment, that they are qualities of body, speech, and mind, the qualities that they have generated, the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, have progressed on the path with that same motivation for the benefit of all, and have produced a spontaneous, eventually full and complete enlightenment, purely for the benefit of all sentient beings, and that they are the kind of basis on which we are accumulating virtue now and purifying negativity. So it's through this way of recalling these qualities that we then bring to mind the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha in front.
order commercial and Tomberg and Kuson to go and Timber and Taweta, each get about one do get over ticket Yobacha. And this Tago do you Ranga Tago you attention of Magan Simja Masa or what the Tanjake. And it's a Dover Tawara that they Biduba to get the Chickala Chick Nene. You want to get what the compassion and Simjala Mibiki Ninja. And that together to get Judah Java Chana Chimoro, Java Shoja, Java Juji. What the compassion? And the general Lama to be on that they were the way Judah Java Chana Chimoro, they were Judy, they were short them, and the Batata Lama to be on to make Judah, they were the way Judah Java Martina, Mido, that Lama to be on, which Chingy love to so what and compassion. What I did, you are a liar, you reach out and Daniel and never Majon, or you have never done. You reach out Daniel and never Chimmer, never huge, never short, never the target chicken. The general Lama to be on which you love to Sudage of Lava 10. Lama to be or Kuson to learn to send a vessel to Chava Kuan Pamela, told me about Tibata to Kebatu, Semeshika Toba Chola Padre, Tibata Ticket the Bar Johnny, Semeshika Toba, Rasha Simja Tamjala, Gula, and Kiss on Sunday to Kumbasha.
And so again, we're reflecting on the body, speech, and mind, the wonderful qualities of the enlightened being, and that we cultivate the pure faith, manifest faith, and faith of conviction. Similarly, all of the sentient beings all around us that we are visualizing, that they are wanting happiness so badly, but are bereft of that happiness, and they want to avoid suffering so desperately, but are inundated by that suffering. And so, as well as having this attitude of faith towards the enlightened being, the merit field in front, we also generate this sense of compassion focused on all the sentient beings, or all the 6 realms of existence in the space in front of us, and really think how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Deity, please bless me to make it so. And how wonderful if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. May this be the case. I will see to it, oh Guru Deity, please bless me to make this so. How wonderful if all sentient beings had happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. May this be the case. I will see to it, oh Guru Deity, and please bless me to make it so. And so we make our prayer, our supplication, invoking the immeasurable thoughts. And of course, we realize that in terms of really developing immeasurable compassion and immeasurable love, immeasurable joy, that it is pointless unless we have the foundation of equanimity, that mind which is free of discrimination. And so we make sure to how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger that holds some close and others distant. And may this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. Oh, Guru Deity, please bless me to make it so. And with our very sincere supplication, then the figure of the Buddha reacts in the space in front, sending forth the 5-color descending nectar lights, and with the white light predominant, clearing away all negativities in general, and particularly all the obscurations that prevent us from fully developing the 4 immeasurable thoughts. And after that, the yellow golden light predominates as an endowing light, endowing us with that very potential to fulfill these four immeasurable thoughts to their perfection.
어떤 공부하셔 어떤 저는 어떤 어떤 저 라마 투베 오고 어떤 스코미 어떤 저 아다 되지 쉬는 저스다 가자 단다데 가서 뭐래 어다데 가서데 다른 거죠 왜냐로 아니 담줄라게 단다데 무엇이 맞지 종인설을 가서 종인설 다 뒤쳐도 이제 가서 뜸배청아 또 참고 직접 산다 전소 아니 어디 what's her name what's it Cheryl Floyd Cheryl signature 살 종인설 아니 뒤쳐도 뭐죠 뜸배청아 참고 직접 봐 어디죠
아니
담주 종인설
아니 담쇼
담주
so
무엇이 봐 인설
one of our acquaintances again I said that Anani Damso, whose name is Cheryl, has passed away. And like to offer
Polar yeah
Cheryl Floyd.
Cheryl Boyd.
Floyd. Floyd.
Soyd.
Floyd.
Cheryl Soyd. Is that it? Cheryl Floyd. Thank you, David. Yeah. Cheryl Floyd. His ordained name is Annie Damshaw.
Yeah, what drawing is and teacher and Chidane during to good check Chidan Jumba toying to do good check a morang oaken cigarette. Because of the Nalogi, oaken Chibatanga yourself, Shabal take yourself. What the Takaina Menate Moronto Morangi and Morangi touch oaken Chimbatawati, Munet and Jibia patching and Yamela Yoneki and watch roaches. Jimbe patching Yamling Jula Troyek and Moachirochi and what in the what that Sulateva in a tea and young the long Chevalatene and it missed on the Temba Yonga. What in the and what in the Yongeta and Morang di Jimbatawati and Jimbe patching and Yamela Troyeta. Morang comes on to Ari to Kabaki reduce to Tungal Tate and the Joguli Tento Tabachim Gavation the Chena Saju Langa Troyeki what in the watching. And so
then with of course Annie Damshaw, Cheryl Floyd in mind, who has passed away, and that again is telling us that at 9:30 this morning she was kind of offering her organs, donating her organs, and that may this be the cause for her to be able to perfect the perfection of generosity on this basis. That whoever receives these organs, may it be a trigger for them to make their lives most meaningful, and that indeed that they may also really perfect the perfection of generosity, and indeed wherever she has been reborn in any of the 6 realms of existence, may she be freed from there and attain a precious human rebirth and meet with a qualified Mahayana teacher like His Holiness and be able to proceed in the paths and grounds to enlightenment. And so in all of that, we will, keeping all sentient beings in mind, we will recite a mantra and the mala of mantras.
Gange tuje ni zo ne dawa tanje bombe che dambe che ne de ba godam de la cha che lo da ya da o mo ni ma ma ne so da ya da o mo ni ma da ya da o mo ni ma ma ne so da ya da da ya da o mo ni ma da ya da o mo ni da ya da o mo ni ma ne so da ya da o mo ni ma ne da ya da o mo ni da ya da o mo ni ma ne so da ya da o mo ni ma ne Daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani so tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani ma mani so daya tao mani mani ma mani
Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni Mahamuni
Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni Mahamuni
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao Muni Muni Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Soha.
Swaha Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao Muni
Muni Muni
Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha. Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Soha.
Swaha Tayatao
Oh,
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Oh,
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Swaha Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha. Tayatao
Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Nam
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Muni Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni
Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Muni Mahamuni
Mahamuni Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao
Tayatao
Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni Soha.
Tayatao Muni
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 Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Tayatao Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Tayatao Muni
Soha.
Muni
Muni Muni
Mahamuni
Mahamuni
Swaha
Soha.
Gyawadi Nyudona Lama Sanja Jojana Towachi Jam Ye Salang Para Isho Tola Ola so da ganja da de Lama Tubia Ombo Commission Bengane da ganja 这个가서的这个가서 甚至他们这个的三界恐怕特别切多，那大概这就个兄弟，但你个月是不是我这个恐怕差
So that then in the presence of the Guru Maninja, the Buddha, the merit field in front of us, and then reiterating to ourselves our desire to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and keeping that motivation in mind, we've set out to listen to some verses from this great mind training text. The Gyatang Chukure Chik. Ani wogi chikdi ni ba tungyan gi gyu lu songwe ni mik yinda ni.
Ola song moja. Oja. Oja. 다간자 subject 니마들 단다디 루주라지 고대도 숨바 미되어 중하다 란지 미되어 중나 란지 네바스 발라 니자 아노 니제네서 뭐지도나 저바 방화서 당보들 뭐게 된들라 나제는 현재랑라서 네바쳐봐 란지 네바서봐 동에기 줄루 동에기 주 동에기 주 류소에 님이 자다 이봐 님이 사바쳤다 겨왕가 말아서 동에기 줄라 세바체베 님이 이봐 란지 레게에서 현 동에기 줄라 자와 임베는 데라 초아 미리 봤자 초 어들레질 어서 가자다 sabja nga tuwa ta tangwa shenga rangla nyoba chewa rangi nimi samba tila tila kasa chowa kasa chowa ni chinji lo jinga sa miri wa wasa tangbo la nga chela tangbo ni tangbo di kasa chua tsaba chelwa tangbo di chua tsaba chela chua tsaba chela 다 니바 데스 니바 동에게 주 류송의 님이 이만에서 자발레스 자발레스 다 슈그드 노데도 가시 교대라도
그래서
어데 디서만에 다 디쳐다 다길이 니가 동에 주인데 대전 다지 류초나 가질라네 초와자 슈와 메이 수자와 슈와 미싱이자 메시 슈와 메이 수자와 레도 미스 동에지 아니 색동 다지 순조와 델라 네바 술라 초자
And so we've been looking at under the main outline of when the unpleasant the unpleasant occurs for us, we should think of it as our own fault, our own issue. And this is then subdivided into two main outlines, the actual meaning of that, and then the dispelling of objections to that. And so with regard to the first, there were 5 subheadings. The first is that reflecting that it is our own fault when others harm us. Secondly, that it is the fault of clinging to our own body is the cause of so much suffering. And thirdly, the cause of the suffering from previous lives and clinging to that being an absolute fault for us. And fourthly, that the connection between our own karma and the cause of suffering from others is something that we should reflect on. And because of that, then anger is completely inappropriate. And fifthly, that that anger being a mistaken response and showing how therefore it is inappropriate. Last week we covered the first of those, reflecting how it is our fault, fault when we are harmed by others. And this week we're starting on the second, and that is that the fault of clinging to the body as a cause of our own suffering. And this has 2 verses related to it, verse number 43 and 44. Both the weapon and my body are the causes of my suffering. Since he gave rise to the weapon and I to the body, with whom should I be angry? If in blind attachment I cling to this suffering abscess of a human form, which cannot bear to be touched, with whom should I be angry when it is hurt?
and that young dig yorwa, young digger, that in the inza, and Kabala Chogres, Jabba Chechu, Komashinagadwa, Kaba Chogres. Get the trouble in a Nigala Chogun, so Chavarwa, what is that? And Tawudi, up in the Chunja Shubayina, Chunjata, and a target Luniga, and Niga doing a good chat to us. So to Lude Sajek, Lumeba in a could never Yugubarwa. So to the Sajek never pot to a Luja was a dinner to Yorwa. Niga, my cousin Niga, as a my doing a touch about the Tubalas one, Comachagra, but let it to Mayura, my doing a Juina. Jabudi is Chungi, Dagi Lu Chua. That could have such a Lu Chua. Say, that's seven the Jeva. No, Denny Lessa, Conchilla Tota, Denny Le Carilla, Yawach and a Cavato, just Conchilla and the toy jet. Double Conala Toy Mita was that. Tona Nigala Togu to Meadow, Travel Janjala Trot and the Tigamentos Toy Mija was some Mijawa. The chit, the name was the chit me su, me su. Because me su, that was never young egg, me su, and sure Jawa, that can never portrait, Nesu young church, that must with a short shower Jawa, read to me serve. Dungeche, Lula Sovala, tan, Lula Sovala, Sebesta, Marazo Chagner, Sebe, Donne, and Sherag Mik. Dag Mugnezum Shima to Basune, Mikavatagi, soon Dagi Suya. And never Tamja Juana, that's also so on the dinner, and never Tamja Jonti to us Juna, Della Novala, Sula Trotter, Shella Twa Midic so Shabawacha.
And so here the first point is outlining the very fact of any harm. So in one case, there's the harm that is being done, and the body. So the body that is being harmed. So it's kind of like they're the one who is harming, the agent, and then there's our body who is being harmed, whether it's being cut or pierced or wounded in some way. That's suffering. That is the kind of seeing that both are the cause of that suffering. And so when it comes to the so-called enemy wielding the weapon, that has to be taken into account with the body that can be pierced or killed, and that you can see again that who should be the one where the anger is directed. It can't solely be directed towards the one who is wielding the weapon, the enemy, because there's more than that involved. And similarly, in the second verse here, we talk about this open boil or open wound of the body that cannot bear to be touched, and that this kind of clinging is like a blindness of wisdom, really, and that and because of that clinging, then all harm can occur to that body, because of that clinging. And so therefore, again, who should we be angry at for it being harmed? Again, it's wrong to be angry at the agent of that harm. And it's similarly so because of the fact that our body is a contaminated aggregate, that it can be stabbed, it can be cut, it can be wounded. If it wasn't contaminated, this wouldn't be possible. So it bears a great deal of responsibility for the harm that arises towards it.
Oh, did you? And Tagani giving him a letter, Mambuchilla tell you on the door, giving him a letter, Mambuchilla tell you on the door, Konchok, Tigas and Tiggin no good to some to go to some etiquette. To get Mambu just on you on the door.
And so in short, there's so many causes and conditions that collate and combine together for this harm to happen. And what we've been pointed out here is that there is no single agent to point a finger at because of this. Because of course you have the karma from previous lives as well playing a big part in what's going on here.
다 숨바 다 되네 임바 인자 고 저거 더 가서 다 개치주대 다 간자 저거 너바 매바 개자 말 너바도 요거를 단다 너바 개바 될라 때는 콘도 사사가 유지 매바치 고추고도 콘도 사사가 현지 매바치다 고추에 제대로 저 콘도 가고 있어 콘도 가고 있어 어디로 다 숨바 개왕아 숨바 아사 개왕아 말 동해기 줄라 세바체베 니미이바
And so the main point here, of course, is that not that harm will not occur. Of course, we cannot guarantee that, but rather to really be clear that whatever harm occurs, that it's never an occasion for anger, and that anger cannot be our choice in those situations. And so this is at the heart of all of these points. Again, now the third of those 5 subheadings was that it's the fault of our clinging to the cause of suffering from previous lives, created in previous lives.
자왈레 집에 동에 미대시 동에 줄라 깨면은 랑기 예배 내주나 샬라고도 지시 빼는 야외 소마다 라딜로면 나서 란지 레기 되게나 가실란에 초알자스.
And so that the 2 root verses that relate to this point are numbers 45 and 46. It is the fault of the childish that they are hurt, for although they do not wish to suffer, they are greatly attached to its causes. So why should they be angry with others? Just like the guardians of the hell worlds and the forest of razor-sharp leaves, so is this suffering produced by my actions. With whom, therefore, should I be angry?
지금 랜드가 남샬라 몽네 레당보 왔다 집어 소소 기부게 집어 소소 기부게 게당 알아주게 가서 기부디 동해 미대신도 다 동해다 되고 요마르스 강가 집어 지자래 동해 미대 대화 되게는 남남 수고요 좀전 삼을 땅고 말해 그 남남 수고 요래 대대서 동해 미대진 동해 미대제 동해기 주 자 동해기에서 동해 미대제 동해 주 미개와다 룰라 김바대죠. 그래다 동해 두고 요 말때 이내 동해 주 그러다 동해 주 그러다 동해기에서 주 미개에 쳐라는 그래다 남음 수수 주치게 줄라 도나 맞지 아니 제부 가서 주들라 때문에 제부 동해 연구에들 믿어봤지 아니 동해 주들라 또 뭐배 온게 뭐 맞죠 봤지 아니 동해 줄은 남가 슈슈슈 아니 동해게 그래서 동해 주 미개와 그 레사야다 아니 다가내 생각하라 저게 동해 용사기 류들라 아니 착배 온게 겸바데 착바 착배나 가서 착배나 랑게에서 랑게 되니 제신 랑게 가서 예배 풍대서 오래 딱까지 어떤데 저다 랑게 룰라 차 아니 동해 줄라 남음 수수게 몽배 온게 주 아니 되니 손도 제외되는 아니 예바티가 용되겠어 판대 로다 미드시는 용대 상라 네바 중와 주에나 아니 셴 가서 셴라 셰 근데 지시다 미션을 야라트 삼도 봐. 오다 코가 녀고도 코 지기도 야라트서 요마서 근데 지시 유대 매봐 오셔.
And so here, of course, we have this sort of blindness with regard to the causal aspect of karma, but you make a great fuss about when it arrives at its resultant or effect stage. And so, we obviously don't want suffering, and we desperately want happiness, and this is kind of a natural desire for everyone too. But it's this kind of childish attitude of not paying attention to the causal aspect of then not being prepared for the consequences when they do inevitably arrive. And so as Hannah was saying here, the childish are these ordinary beings who obviously don't want suffering, but they continue to create the causes of suffering, being non-virtue, and as well as that, they have this great clinging attachment to the body. And so it's both of these that act as the kind of like the fault of this kind of grasping to result in hurt, and that where harm arises for that kind of combination of ignorance with regard to willful ignorance with regard to the non-virtues that they create, the causes of suffering, and as well as that then this kind of very sensitivity around the body. And so they're what is at fault for this kind of suffering, and there should be no grudge or blame attributed to another. And so this is the point of this verse.
아니 줄라 삽삽 맞아도 저부 미도시도 연구여도 아니 저부 갑라 다 동해 좋은데 아니 마기 받잖아 대대고 여봐 가서나 그 삽삽 제거해야겠다 거기서 저기 가서 삽삽 제거해야 되라 맞아 받지 안데 맞아 발라 때네 다 간자저 주스 중앙망원 산도 저부 매는 미주에 저와 좀 돼요 저부 좋은데 아니 마기 받잖아 대대고 여봐 디 마기 받 저부 디 다 마기바 자마레 무트네 아니 마기바요 이게 주주니 야 디갈 오다 디 가서데 미데베 동에데 아니 미게베 제보레 미게베 제보다 미게베 제보 사주 문도 삼 딜라테네 미게베 제보 마사에게 아니 지 가서데 튕게지 줍토나 야바 디 튕게도 줍마도 바 단도 미게와 망도 사에게 주주네 다 저데데 아니 코테다 무트네 동에 용되게 다 주주네 용도 와 용되기도 와. 다 근데 인바이자 다 되게 가서도 먼저 저부 동에 두고 뭐도나 디교 아니 미게와도 까고 도스. 다 미게와도 가리고 돌아 연구도스나 당가서 셈 뒤마둘라 되는 연구도 셈 마둘라 되는 연구도 왔다 가서 좋은데 녀모라 되는 연구되기도 왔다 녀모데 게게 아니 교카서 좀 쉬임 봐. 가서데 녀모 바자 아니 가서데 고유 아니 가서데 추다 미디바 삼로 당와 그래 추다 미디바 삼로 당와 안다 데네자 추다 미디바 삼로 다 추신도 삼로 당고에다 오다 거디로 오 당가 삽삽 맞이다 녀모 깨겠다 녀모 깨서는 동에 주주구리야 삼사 셰바자 가서 내규라 녀모 바자 요래 아니 가 코알라 내데 고유되게 가 녀모 깨게 튕게 요래 아니 내 삼로 추다 더 담아도 녀모 깨게 되네 딕바 사게 삼사자 그뒤네 제시 바유게 스마치 고고도 와 어디 송구여다 어떤데 임바이도 어떤데 샤
So in this verse is really pointing out that there isn't due care around the causal part of the path of karma. And that, and then of course we have to experience the undesired result of these causes, and kind of like we can and that results in unhappiness, the kind of the bitter finger pointing and so on. And so it kind of shows that this lack of care, this lack of conscientiousness around the causal state is not only creating unhappiness then when the inevitable result occurs or ripens, but also it is that which ensures the continuity of that kind of line of misery for us. And so we have to really understand that it is non-virtue that is these kind of causes that are going to result in this kind of unhappy and undesired results. And if we don't do something about it, these will continue more and more and more, and it will be this continuity of unhappiness for us. And so therefore we have to put a stop to the non-virtue. And we can only put a stop to the non-virtue when we have the control of the mind, the control that is able to avoid the mental afflictions overriding our better selves, our better mindsets. And that we know how the mental afflictions get the upper hand when you have to understand like the three main facilitators of mental affliction. One is that we have the imprints in our mind of all different kinds and colors and shades of mental affliction already there on our mind. We are in the cyclic existence. We're in the environment that allows those mental afflictions to flourish, and then also we interact with life with mistaken thinking, and that we have to do something about that. So we have to have that kind of talk with ourselves where we understand the difficulties of the situation I have, the massive amount of mental affliction imprints on my mind stream. I'm in this environment which promotes mental affliction, and I have like this tendency to misinterpret what's going on, the reality of the situation. And so I open the door to these mental afflictions. And so we have to cultivate mindfulness, alertness, conscientiousness as our defense against that sort of situation, and to really prevent the causes of suffering arising in the form of non-virtue.
다 유익하는 삽사 맞잖아. 아니 유익하는 삽사 맞잖아. 오다 아니 데부디가디 다 용데도 얼고 탑심해보다 자기도 다 베나사 셈제냐외 송마다 라딜로메 나셀라 소베 나셀라사 소베 냐외 둥에 대다게 다 대다 수강 제한 거 말고 레가 온거 소소 레사기 이게 아니 냐와라 기는데 가사들은 되게 차로 거로 레기 기에베다 그래서 란지 레기 너바데다 깨나 에시안 강실라 나도 초아 차대 초아 미리소 샤고 다 되게 소소 레기 온게다 가사데 되게 차로고 여러와 차로고 여래 어디래.
And so the next verse is really just pointing this out, that what happens when we are not conscientious around the causes, the causes of suffering, not conscientious about avoiding non-virtue. And so that second verse then gives that example of these beings in the hell realms, the guardian beings and the Shalmali tree, and so on. And that all of the suffering in the hell realms is something that arises from our own karma. This is what can eventuate. And so that all that harm that arises is something that has been created ourselves from our own karma, from that very lack of conscientiousness around the causes. And therefore, who should we be angry at in a situation like that? It's certainly not any other.
베랑가라서 강사 숨라 다운데 강사 숨을때 지가 소리 강사 소수서 레나 민다고 게 강사 지금 약부 통고도 강사 지금 밑에 독자 통고도 다사 미치를 임바이네 강사 지금 밑에 약부 통고면도 독자 통고면도 그 소수서 레나 민다고 용 되기도 도와 내가 소수 레그 온게 다 지금 낭자시도 같아서 랑게 레그 다 대화도 차 되기도
This kind of intimate connection or relationship with karma is something that we need to, reflect more on. The classic example of the three persons having different karmic appearance. And so for one, what is occurring is suffering. For the other, what is occurring is not suffering. And for all of this is due to their whatever karma imprints they have collected on their own minds. This is kind of really determining your perception.
다가는 시에 배는 추포바 공화이바이나 파미 이다송의 다외세 하를 뒤진는 거 요래. 밀라 추라는 거 요래. 이달라 나타나는 거 요래. 소소소 딱고 레긴 레나라 때네 나한테 도와. 레상부 가자 사발라 때네 그 비달리 나한테 도와.
So the one that's used often is the cup of water, that in terms of the three different persons perceiving that from a celestial being point of view, that's nectar. From a human point of view, it's a cup of water. From a hungry spirit point of view, it's a cup of pus and bile.
我的讲，他刚才这个靠这个告诉的来三个了，但那个那在明朝用的个
So then due to whatever karma has been accumulated determines what appears to that mind.
我的，他的因为因啥，他稍微的注意搞了啥不多，注意搞了啥嘛都对，我他这不懂的用的个多，但这不懂的用的，他搞的啥子这个说呢？哦，他的了的呢，俺来你把啥话的我吃过多。 来啥话，你把啥话的我知道，哦，没地接受这个做没把这啊，来你把啥话的地干的，但是来你把啥话的呢，用个多是不是我知的？安呢，他当然那些哦，这里东西有的我夸巴的，地用个多是不是？第二，安呢，可是同样没话呢，来你把啥话用把啥，第二点呢用个多，来你把啥就没多是不是？但是东西中啊，他人家我的感觉到来你把啥就没多是的，我吃过多，我吃过多。
And so, getting this point about the fact that, you collect the suffering cause, you will inevitably experience a suffering result. So when that happens for us, when that suffering arises for us, we should have that immediate connection saying, oh, I am responsible for this suffering. I collected that faulty karma. This is acting as a condition for what I am actually feeling now. Also in cyclic existence, of course, this is the way it plays out in cyclic existence. And what we get to the stage where we can immediately determine that when we are, pinched by suffering in any way, we immediately connect it to determine, oh, I must not accumulate that kind of cause again. I must prevent that cause from being collected. I must avoid collecting such non-virtuous causes again. So it should be an immediate connection you make to when the suffering initially arises for you, to relating it to, again, being far more conscientious and mindful and alert about what causes you're laying down on your mind strength.
我到底的，让他能把成绩把是唱过的话，能把成绩唱过的话，那边学的些呗，这个连这个南下这个让个牛毛马家了拼个多，牛毛马家拼个啥，拼把马赛，第二天呢，南边熊了，老中家吧，南边熊娘来家吧了天呢，告诉他来年把的。 사베 그 동해 영화데 안데 타마 차줘야다 아니 마음 발라 레니바 마사네 아니 레상바 바시 사예 디아 상메게 레사예 줄을 줘대 다들 용구와.
And so, this approach is the mark of what's referred to as a fully qualified Buddhist. That you have an understanding that the mental afflictions are very prominent. You can see that by applying such conscientiousness to the accumulation, non-proliferation of the non-virtuous causes, that is not only beneficial, but you also can be somebody who is really putting into practice all of the information that is in the great texts and so on, and great teachings, and that you are also putting an end to that path of negative karma, and that the more you can do that, the more there is space only to accumulate positive, healthy karma. And so that is something that is really, really powerful. To turn that around is the job of a fully qualified Buddhist.
다 딜레스 삼로 땅도 바네 아니 생거라를 내가 제원도 아니 콘도 사주 삼라 아니 미세바 게 정도로 왔다 딜레스 니바도 저도 시바랑게 레게 셴 동에게 줄라 자와 임베나 델라 초아 미리 봤어 레고도 로다 다 소소 레그 온게 자 소소게 레그 온게 용데도 나랄 둥가 요도 나레 레그 온게 용데도 다 심바디 깨레마도 문에라는 소소 레사바 되는 용데도 다 되는데 다 되는 삼로 다운도 다 갈래도 다 딜라 소소로 너바 깨는 딜라 컨트롤 사사 메게지 시바 랑기 레기 셴 둥게 줄라자 다 소소게 레기 디 온게 미 심바지 진짜 막게 심지 심바지 아니 동해기 줄라 자토와 다 소소를 내가 깨발할 때는 딜라 동해 연구로 와 동해 줄라 자와 제바 임베 이바 인자 아니 딜라 초아 미리고 하고서 미리고 니스 자발려 다지 레지 군제는 달라 늦제 되는 그 다게 달라 늦제 남중대 되는 심지 냐도나 다지 대다 말라감스
And so therefore, we need to train our thoughts and our thinking to respond to what is in fact, inevitable cases of harm that are going to arise anyway, because of the fact that we have so much negative karmic on our mind streams. But that instead of anger as our reaction, we should always be, to promote patience as our response. And that this is so important to be able to do, to understand that what's occurring here, that the one who is harming me is only merely not a condition of what's going on, And apart from that, the rest is my responsibility. I'm the one who has to take, who's kind of the blame for that. And so therefore, anger is certainly not the wise or appropriate reaction here, but rather patience. And so in the fourth subheading that we will deal with now, and this is very much at the heart of it. I just want to say how our own karma and the suffering of others and the cause that they're creating for suffering are intimately connected, and therefore anger is completely inappropriate. Verse number 47. Having been instigated by my own actions, those who cause me harm come into being. If by these actions they should fall into hell, surely isn't it I who am destroying them?
호타 딜레스 카츠올로네 삼르스 타와이나 아니 카츠오도 저 삼르스 타와이나 아니 뇨모 생들 ngo트에 유게 렌데 생들 ngo트에 유게 중국도 와 로아 아니 어디 ngo트 아니 덴데 ngo트 온데 아니 다 소소 다게 뭔지 디벨 레기 구아체나 다 디벨 레기 아니 디다 구아체네 아니 세들 달라 뇌제 디가 용되게 요랬다 뇌바체 뇌제 버려보남 중대스 달라 뇌바체바 디 다 소소로 뇌바 랑게 레게 꾸네 아니 뇌제 디가 용 아니 뇌바체바 디 버려보 디게 디야 아니 고 심제 이바 인사 로다 가자데 심제 이바 인사 아니 디 코라 뇨몽게 샹와도 제네 제모데 버려보 되나 아니 안다까지 냐와라 소바 계획이다 남인게 되고 냐와라 계 아니 제바 주되다 뇨와 주되다 단제라 소바데 모든의 코알을 동에 뇨의 주tum의 저거도 도바 주베나사 남인게 되고 다 뇨바 쳐보 계와이나 안티 그래서 남인게 되고들라 다까지 저기 로가사데 정거 조선배 톱쳐보 사바이나 남인게 되고 냐와라 계죠 이달에 개조에 두둘에 개조다 덮치중 오고 연구로와 아니 지금 제가 주된다 뇨아 주된다 데데가 온게 엘리 밀에 개바이네 아니 지금 내가 개발을 되는다 같이 못이네 가서도 그래서 제가 주된 게 못이네 내가 숙청 개야다 아니 뇨아 주된 게야 못에 되는 동네 뇨에 돼야다 아니 다데라서 벌 개 용한다 다가 못이네 모든의 코알의 내게 주지 좀 저거도 봐. 동 로다 나냐와라 동바주. 어디 주나 다지 파류부 대다 말아가 다지는 파류부 대다 같이 가서 지금 가서다 대화 그래서 다 좀 맞도 봤다. 그래서 동해 장장 그 농대고 거지 제주도 다 바로 그게 엠베 가서도 지금 가서도 다 지금 매번 써봐서라 참으라다 말라감대 라바제제스 그러다 어떻게 찾고도 와서 어떻게
So from this point, we take into account the fact that the negative karmas that I have accumulated in the past are, as it were, instigating or prompting the harm that is arising towards me in this life, in the form of that, harmer, the one who is engaging, the agent of that harm. And here we see the play out of mental affliction and the law of cause and effect. And we have to recognize this clearly, what this connection is. And so, and that, when this occurs, what I have accumulated, what I have responsibility for on my mind stream is in playing a very significant part in the harm that others are engaging in towards. And so that the consequences of all that for them is that they will be accumulating negative causes, and that there will be the fully ripening effect of those causes. Depending on the severity of it, they will be reborn in one of the lower realms, for the very severe, the hell realms, or then the hungry spirit realms, or the animal realms. And they will also have to bear the results that are in accord with the action, and the results that are in accord with the experience. So these will ensure that not only will that person be inclined to engage in that sort of negativity again, like the habit of that negativity, but also will they have to experience the results of such harm themselves again. Not to mention the environmental results that they will also have to undergo and experience. And so here it's describing particularly that it's like that we are the ones who are promoting their being heading to the hell realms, and in that sense we are like, isn't it like we are actually destroying them? So all of this has to be taken into account, that that person who is engaging in this harm, because it's so closely, intimately connected with negative harms that I have created in the past. This is part of my ripening path, that I am receiving this undesirable harm. But they are being thrown into, as it were, the lower realms, if we understand the karma of the situation, of engaging in continuous harm themselves, of experiencing that, and it's of kind of like really laying down negative causes to continuously experience really harsh suffering.
我知道，他刚才这个说的，这个，如果他刚才如果他刚才这个超跟那上呢，基本中央按照三六单呢，那基本整个按照三六，基本全部按照三六单了，三六跟在当把赢把赢，三六跟在是当把赢把赢呢，按个这个对了，这个控制啥没这个这，很多的台湾前边出个娘们这个基本那第一讲呢，他真基本马跟什么了，我他。所以见起呢，对了，这个是东海赛就是周围的，我没说我全部用的去，是吧？俺这里因为啥？他可能控制啥就走了，你就结果也，俺你就结，俺好多多，但是俺第你把结完，俺来你把可是啥玩意呢？我他第俺把车上就俺了明白说，甚至他感觉这个上面的当初把结果也，我说俺所以给我可是啥人呢？第我。说出来，你把这个提了起，我接当，安尼，第你把肯定啥玩意，你把啥玩带到车上我去，安尼这个把车的这把个，安尼说出来没也去，我到底这什么嘛？当然特别这个去， take what you mentioned, I'm letting it, but you know, Contosajo, Kawakawa. So to Sakona meeting is what I did. Not get to what you go to what I'm going to Chicago, the take what you tell a tree, Tapshin, the Chicago, that Tapshin, Jen, take what you tell a woman to do, at the Majana Tam meeting. Tosa Nibachi meeting, Lamba Nibachi meeting,
And so, this skillful means of being able to understand any situation of harm like this is that which is appropriate for a person, whatever capacity they're practicing at, whether they're the smaller, the medium, or the greater capacity being. But in particular, for anybody pertaining or pretending to be a Mahayana practitioner, they have to understand that in all of these situations, that compassion is the only response, and that one must never choose anger in any of these situations, and that that because we are kind of like as a Mahayana practitioner, you are only focused on what can be of benefit to the other, and so therefore the thinking quickly moves on to looking at the negative karmas that the other is accumulating and praying that it all ripen upon me right now. That whatever the harmer is engaged in, even the imprints of their actions, may they all ripen upon me now. And you make that fervent prayer to make sure that that is happening. And you kind of really, infuse your whole thinking with that beautiful sentiment. And when you are, your mind is fully kind of infused with that intention, there can be no moment of anger, no thought of anger in a situation like that. And that's what's required of the Mahayana mindset, and that you know that there is the means by which we can completely and utterly avoid any even moment of upset or anger at all towards the other, and to place all the energy of our thinking into this line of thinking. There's no second path here that you would take on all of the suffering that they're going, the causes that they're creating, the imprints of those causes on yourself, to make sure that they don't have to suffer because of it.
我真的是大概在这个中山上了马当呢，或者我那就下巴拉巴拉干了，但这个说的到。ông bị xe barang gala sha shaman na ta o ko ta control ke ta ma ka wa ke de yong ro ta dile jumze ma jumze samlo ta che ma che ne ani ji ga ra zo kya wa ji ke len ge za len de ge nam sha da to kanga la ba ji de ani ta ga ne shi ju da de bu go to ta ta ani ji ge samlo ge ani ko zo because of you can issue and country samlatan dewaki to country samlatan dunga gula to go to ga neju and cheba chene and water beton what samlatan oh gasodata chik sobakom da jumzen shebetoneta sobakom do on ko draw out of the yungurwa
and of course without reasoning here, the capacity to reason in this way, then there is very little choice that can be made in situations like this. If we're operating just at the gross level of our sense consciousness and trying to interpret life through the information that they are giving us, then that's not enough. We need to be able to head into analysis, to really apply the law of cause and effect here, to employ the aspirations of the Mahayana intention. And so to kind of make sure that our response in a situation like that accords with actuality. And that means that, the conclusion that we come to through our analysis is one of patience, choosing patience in all its guises, in all these different situations, in these different scenarios.
ngaba choa ni chinjil loje marikpan ne sidaro ngaba ne ta choa ni chinjil loje marikpan ne zawale deda la ne tenje ne swebe dagdi mangdu chung kasa de swebe dagdi mangdu chung da la tene deda ni yurin dunge nyawar dung da ni de la neje la deda da la pendo na 친질로도 지칠 마루 셈겨 초아체서.
The fifth of these points was the pointing out that anger, since it is a mistaken state of mind, is again inappropriate. The root text, verses number 48 and 49, will look at this point. And they read, independence upon them, I purify many negativities by patiently accepting the harms that they cause. But in dependence upon me, they will fall into a hellish pain for a very long time. So since I am causing harm to them and they are benefiting me, why, unruly mind, do you become angry in such a mistaken manner?
그래, 나 지당 가서 미디 소바 첨보를 강가 연대 통고로 와. 저 컨트롤 말한테 소바 공부들 강가 연대 통고로 와. 연대 통고로 오다 미상보다 미양고 임바지 지기로 와. 오다디 가자 지금 소바 생각들 거치 너바 개개 질라 때네 거 소고를 뭐다 신 소바서 용해게면도 와. 다들 임바 인자 저 가서데 지금 소바 공개 강사 소바 냠내 지금 때라 너바 개개 때다 문에 전에 지금 제가 있는 뒤쳐버지도 와. 와 가다 말라마서 소연데 소바 때문에 기회신이스. 소바 때문에 기회신이스. 다 소소 소바 때 너바 개개 질라들은 용거 이거서 안데 그 소소게 소베게 아니 가서다 윤대 용에게 가서데 들렸다는 용어서 소바 때문에 기회신이 숨고도 와. 근데서 데레에서 잡고 뒤에서 달라네 수배 미게 전에다 잡고 뒤에다 소소게 저다 같이 저 소바스도 소소 미디어와 찍 아니 미디어와 찍데 아니 딜라 로다 미디어와 제발 때는 딜라 아니 가서도 컨디션와도 맞제와 전에다 되도록 소바스기로 왔다. 근데서 그 미디어와 찍어도 그 잡았으라고 열었다. 그래서 잡으디에서 달라네 수배 미게 제다 소부 거미 미게 찍기도 와서 미게 제네 소바 거미 다 소바 거발에 다제 디고 도마죠. 로다 컨도 사바이나 디고 찍기로 와. 다들 컨도 사마서 소바 거한테 디고디 마카기도 와. 아니 가사비 디고 뭐에 좀 그러 와. 아니 디고 도마 종라서 매바 속도와 종라서 두버디게다 달라테네 다 코란 너바지게 코란라 달라테네 다게 유르부 동해 중에 냐월 동다 너바지게 코란 아니 다 지금 유르부 동해 녀에게 다 지금 디버 접촉 사와이는 냐월라서 바기게 아니 디게 다가네 시게 아다 냐월라서 동아줄라다 냐월라 동아티에 이달에 게토에 아니 두둘라 게토에는 용구도 와. 규정부보다 동행용대야. 다 대자마다 당연히라 쇼와지 안 제바 규대다 영화 규대다 단제라 소바되게 용구도 와. 다 동에 봐도 매바치. 모두는 코알 영화에 동에 규정도 와. 도와 줄라. 다들 잡아들라 때는 다 소소라 차잖아. 그래서 내가 뇌제 임배 달라 팬도지 이자. 다 데서 소소로 다 나라도 라 잡아되게 팬토와래. 겨울 납쳐부터 와래. 아니 저 장주가 샘제 군내란에 잡아이나 산제 공마가 규축토래. 그러다 서바나네 까두고 초스라고 와다 배시부질 납쳐부터 와래. 달라네 잡아들. 다 소소 네 잡아들 뇌제서 코니야 손리게 규차로도 임베 대다 달라 팬토제 인다 코나 달라 팬토가 차대요. 소소 코나다 뇌계가 소라 차는 거다 내버려. 가서 팬제와 친질로도 지칠 마rum자. 다 된데 소소라 팬토겐 제마자 팬토제 이나 팬토바 이마이나 팬토제 들라다 팬토겐 들라 가르잖아. 친지 로도 지칠 마루가 셈세 안 가르쳐는 다 콜라 지금 마가와 지금 유스 소소소바 검토하는 랍좀 두고도 세배 교례도 가서 셈죠 초와 제대 초미리 소서 가르쳐는 초와 지금 초는 지금도 왔어 딜라 때는 안 소소를 내고도 뭐 팽금도 왔어 소소를 펴바시 랭기나 아니 디스바 검토나 마토와 저서바 검토 소소를 펴바 랍좀 아니 소소의 된도 소소를 펴도에지도 코란 려 당와 소리도 왔어 그런 녀석 누가 봐도 매번 유튜브 소소를 편随便냠내 제 체도 안배 월렌텔리 편도 제가 소리도 왔어. 삼로 야보다나. 그런 려당잖아. 안데네자 들 초나 지금도 처음에 소시 봐 오자.
And so really, patience, of course, is defined as the mind that does not get angry in the face of harm, but remains calm. And that, but it's kind of like really to choosing patience in response to harm and at all times, as the great Kadampa Geshe is always referred to those who harm as like a virtuous teacher of patience for them, who they cherished those who really harmed them as something very, very precious indeed. And that here in this particular case, when the enemy here is engaging in harming, and we focus on patience, then we completely avoid negativity on our side. That through that meditation on patience, we can really avoid any kind of negativity arising. But in dependence on us, that particular enemy, because of the action that they're engaging in, is kind of condemning themselves to a long spell with suffering and maybe in the lower realms, like in the hell realms. And so that they here, they're not only that, but of course, that's just the ripening effect, the fully ripening effect of something. But as we just pointed out, they also have the other aspects of karma to contend with, such as the result that is in accord with the actions that they have engaged in, the result that is in accord with the experiential cause that they've accumulated, as well as the environmental results. And so it's kind of a whole really nasty package that they're being condemned to because of the action that I am, in kind of engaged in with them. And so so it's kind of like here, that we have the enemy that in terms of me, I'm kind of like harming them, but they are being of great benefit to me. It's as if, they are to view it as if they are volunteering to act as an aid to our patients. That they are in that putting themselves in harm's way for our benefit, and that we have that always great opportunity to accumulate the experience of patience, not engage in negativity and so on, and that these causes of patience indeed can be the causes of right to enlightenment itself. So incredible benefit for our sake. And so, as it says in the verses there, that why unruly minds then should you become angry in such a mistaken manner?
我的，他感觉我做这个可说的这个说的这个三界恐怕短短年跟几百呢，俺讲究给 Sam 结果的，就把它拉过的，就把它拉过的，俺接受怕这这个年龄结果有的，如果他金巴的、出征的、水巴的，俺这个针对的三代的写了拉过多，他点的是水巴了拉过多，他水巴了拉过多，他随便年龄，他起码主巴了，他感觉这个说的，这个。让了600几个人的，俺随便年龄给大概就团结加出个多。 수배 냠랭게 통계 자주도 다 근데 그 통계 작은 데라 아니 소소 컨트롤사는 막아봐 제와이나 다 간제 저거 가서대 아니 저거 저 소소라 팬 도건데 아니 너바 개겐지는 뭐 집에서 차기도 와다 그러랑 뢰다네 아니 다 정말아서 수배 냠랭게 로 지금 데라 아니 먼저게 때 가서대 로 지금 봐 뭐마도 받잖네 아니 지고서 라신니가 다 가서대 디베 유튜브에 줬대기도 와 줬대기도 와다 되게 뭐쳐 받잖네 다 되게 소소라 팬 토근이 봐도 뭐쳐 받지고 뒀어
And so, and so in terms of our engaging in or striving to attain the state of enlightenment, of course, we have to generate the mind of enlightenment itself. We have to back that up by the practice of the 6 perfections, the perfection of the generosity, of ethics, of patience, of enthusiastic effort, of meditative concentration, and of wisdom. Of course, you see patience is right in the center of that. We have to perfect the practice of patience. And so with that in mind, that we actually need those who are engaging in harm to appear towards kind of like to give us those kind of opportunities to perfect that patience, to help us. And so it's only a small shift in mind to be able to always regard the ones that really do press our buttons as the ones who are really most beneficial for us and to help us. And so they are, as it were, conducive conditions for our practice of patience. They are volunteers for our benefit. And that here it's very important to be able to recognize this kind of at the outset, like to really have that as part of our modus operandi, as it were, in life, to really avoid the situations where we're not prepared, and then both of us are accumulating negative karma. So in this case, it's kind of that turnaround of our whole viewpoint to see all others, particularly those who harm me in any way. They are never a case of returning harm, never a case of disliking, never a case for anger, because they are so amazingly invaluable in my being able to perfect the practice of patience.
我这个告诉了错蒙问的三罗当年，错蒙问的三罗当年，安尼这个水土把接，安尼老多人都本来家下来呢，这个告诉的，就告诉的，如果老多人都本来。 심지어 찔러 팽거 도바이네 심지어 찔러 팽거 여바이네 아니 저게 냐외게 매나라 깨바네 깨베바도 내바이네 내기 삼사가 된데게 개세가 줘봐도 라고고 요래 된데게 와서 닝도업돼서 고고 요래 닝도업돼도 고고 요래 아니 다다 현지게 소소 개라 내바 충중 깨바들라 아니 미세바 제데 아니 얘기해서 줘봐 랍토사 말해 데 디와제래도 와 그래서 배나 차샤바이나 배나 개세가 줘발래고도 닝도 침부 슈주고고요 봐 닝도 근데 뭐다 대바체베 추억이 냠내 지금 있어도 다 개세가 자주세베 줘발라고 있어 거 자주세베 줘발라고 근데 배 닝도 현담이다 고고로 와 좋아 배나 심지어 찍을 팽거 여바이나 팽거 여바나 딜러 팽배 채도 개 냐와긴 나로라 개바네 개바바도 내바네 내기 인서 되게 닝도 고기도 와 된데게 닝도 고한테 아니 심지어 저게 준비 직두자 라바다 내바 충중저랑 소소 개라 내바 개바들 미서바 시부지 제제 그 두게 민도 로아타 디가 지금 쓰고 먼저나 아니 게 개세 줘봐 그랬을랍 두그래 로아타 지금 초망원에 삼로다네 아니 그 써봐 검토했어야지 아 미소서 칸 민자와 이제 삼로 땅다 민자와 땅이나 야随便 냠내 줘야 용구로 봐. 야 초 망분의 삼로 땅 들렸잖아. 야 또 소소 삼로 됐다. 다다데 란진진 계절에도 와. 가 마셔야 돼. 디 갈라 독잘라기도 서래도 와. 다데 게 지금은 와서자 초 되네 삼로 땅이야 소바 검토해체 용구로 와.
And so we need to be able to arm our practice of patience by thinking of it from many different points of view, as has been exemplified in these reasonings here, but also, in terms of, the kind of Mahayana ideal, where the actions and behaviors of a so-called Bodhisattva, are meant to kind of have this aspiration in the kind of the prayers, where it says, in order to benefit one sentient being, I will face eons in the hell realms for that sake, if that's the case, and it's kind of that level of courage that is being spoken about here. There's that really level of courage is being spoken about here. And so it's kind of asking the question then, should we be upset by something that's nasty that somebody has directed towards us, or some insult and so on that has been directed towards us? Then immediately we have to ask ourselves the question, is this the reaction of a bodhisattva? Is this in line with that kind of aspiration? And to kind of really ask the hard questions of us, are we living up in any way close to that ideal? And so it's kind of like not really understanding the level of courage that is necessary to be able to live one's life at that level. And therefore, that means that 99.9% of all, the kind of like the undesirable things that occur for us in whatever form should be nothing. There should be really nothing to upset the mind at all, but rather all great lessons in patience for us to be able to perfect that perfection of patience.
这个你的了东这个本来先个老百姓呢东安中央的按这个卡纳中央的来你把啥位这我的他的这我的来你把啥我的他的他说了他的是个他妈查这个有的什么我这把钱呢他的来你把啥位这我的我这把钱呢按其中来你把马啥呀他按当的来你把啥位这我的第了点的按木头的来你把马啥呀给按给开过的连接中国的给什么的他的他妈查这个的他的要不中说啊来你把啥来啥呢按告诉的大概这个你不多去干的下多马钱呢这不木头的用过的按这不拍着过的他打的你用啊的了点呢的来的这不的他妈查吧我的要不中说上不上我的要不中说他的过去说上不上过去说上不上我这个的来没这吧的没这吧这不去没啥玩意上可是呢过这不的按过这个你不多去干的下多节嘛的我就在这不的用过的用啊嘛在底下拍着过的他的要不中说上不上去过去说上不上上不当呢第一他来年把干的啥问题过去吧需要上不上第三嘛在说了你把这个来年把啥问题第一过去是上不上可能来年把马赛过去中了他一边马上甚至他们这个来年把啥吧看看第一过去说上不上我的这个上不当头发人呢那别骗给我的是
And yet another reason is that, if we are the subject of harm coming from another, and it's, there is real suffering that arises because of that. One response is that we can really accept that suffering, and that accept it. Why? Because it is obviously, we're recognizing the part that we have played in that, as it has been pointed out. But also you can say, yes, this has arisen from a negative cause that I created. But by being able to accept it here without getting upset, without reacting, I can bring that path of karma to the end, to its end. And that I know that according to the principles of karma, that I do not meet with the result if I haven't created the cause. And as well as that, if I have created a cause, it does not just disappear of its own accord, unless, you know, it has been dealt with the four opponent powers. But in a situation where it hasn't been in any way dealt with the four opponent powers, the laws of karma, the principles of karma tells me that karma also has the quality of increasing. And so if I'm simply accepting the suffering here of, you know, after all, the karma that I've created, this is going to bring this whole line of suffering to an end. And indeed, that's something really worthwhile. And so you really kind of like are able to extract the meaning out of that situation and remain in a very calm state of mind. Plus, you can really up the ante there as well by saying, okay, I'm not upset by this harm, even though it's suffering. I'm not upset by it because I can see the end to that, the whole path of karma. But also, I am willing to accept, you know, the similar karmas of all other sentient beings. May they ripen upon me now as well. So you're really opening that mind and increasing the courage of that mindset.
먼저 섬성 미소 내비게와이나 파틱두자 말랍자 소소 셈마기원 대와이나 어떤 게 서바 고면서 어때 서바 고면 말해. 그 틱두자 말랍는다 디 말랍에 서바다 고말해대 이내 서바 고야 소소 셈마기바차 안데 코로 산이 마기바전 되긴 정도 아니 들라때네 어다 지가소래 저마 뜻이야 국가브라나 뜻이야 삼사들이 용되기도 와 가자 맞아 소독자 자나 칸도들 독자 말랍자 스마 마기와 쟤네 어다 드링 그 독자 자수다 네팔 서바 고미 독자 람메 삼사 저기도 와 이내다 독자 말랍에 서바 고물 고 서바 고야 말 코르스를 마기바 차대도 와그 서바 고야 말와 서바 서데 아니 그 저기 서베게 페이톤에 아니 디 땅돌래네 어다 지가서데 아니 파줘 되길라 아니 지가서데 지가서데 제와다 닝지 유여돼 아니 지금 디 파줘고 녀바께바 딜라 때네 파 마오발라 국갑 중앙이네 녀바 마께베 제네 아니 디 녀바 수 녀바께바 딜라 아니 지금 서바 검네 배셈 시대 처는 마주네 네토바이나 어디다 서바 검스기로 와 셈 시대 죽사전 서바 광요 말이
Now we must be able to, you know, distinguish what is the patience that we are discussing here versus what we might mistakenly refer to as patience. Like in a situation where you've had an interaction, a negative interaction with somebody, and that you have, you know, they have, you know, spat out some invective directed at you. You didn't respond. You didn't, you know, say anything nasty. You kept your silence. Then they have moved away, and it's later on. But you're referring to what you did as being patient, but you're still holding the offense in your own mind. You're still bearing a grudge at them, you know, and that you know you're even kind of thinking, if I get the opportunity in the future, I'll really, you know, let them know what for. So that's not patience. You know, we might think that we've you know, we've been patient, but that's not patience at all, because patience is defined as that which is really maintaining absolute calm in the mind. You know, patience is qualified by an attitude of benefit towards the other. Patience is qualified by an attitude of acceptance of whatever, complete acceptance of whatever suffering has arisen for oneself. Patience is qualified by having an element of love, of compassion in that attitude, and that also thinking that if this situation occurs, you know, if I have to meet this person again in the future, I will be coming forward with the attitude of benefit towards that person. And so, you know, it's kind of only when we maintain a basis of calm that these beautiful sentiments and aspirations can flourish. And that's the patience. That's what patience means, that you have that unperturbed, secure basis of calm, in which these beautiful thoughts to be proactively beneficial can flourish.
다가는 다들 가당발 라마조 소에는지 소바데베 계획신이 다디 가 소바코베 국가 야고 시우지 째서 섬 가나 요게 지금 중앙이나다 다 당원에 소바 생긴 상황에
So
와다 소바콤 안데 당가 야고 시우스 다데 국가 째서 다 야고 시우중서 배진체 보이 나다를 소바코베 국가 야고 랑르 당전은 가 째서 다디 디과된데 사야 디과 사와데 갈을 미바쇼 삼상 들으서 삼로 당토나 다 야고시비를 살다.
So from the Kadampa, great Kadampa Lama's point of view, when they talk about the ones who harm us as being like a virtuous friend, because they afford us this opportunity for patience, that they have this extraordinary response to harm, to the ones who come to harm them. They immediately kind of see this as like they're joyful, say, today was such a wonderful opportunity for me to cultivate patience, that this person came and volunteered themselves to allow as a lesson for my patience. How beautiful, how perfect that is. They are so kind, and that they have this beautiful response of absolute joy that they've had this great opportunity to accumulate patience. And so that is the genuine view in which they hold that person, that so-called harmer that arrived to meet them.
Good. 가져다 랑르 땅전에 엔가라 펜바 줍소 삼사전 오다 펜바 줍어줘 뭐 줘봐 이나 제마 국업 중간에 너가 기가 말해 로아 오다 랑르 땅에 펜바 줍소 삼사들이 제발 다도 그 서바도 삐다고 싶어 차사로 와.
So that's a really fully qualified patience there. You can see that when you regard the situation as the other volunteering themselves to help you to develop patience, and seeing it as a completely beneficial, seeing them as totally beneficial towards you, you would never ever respond there with harm, or even in the future if you had that opportunity, a gilt-edged opportunity to harm them, you would never take it because you have that fully qualified patience.
Yeah, okay.
So we can leave it there for today.
어들리자 랑게 되나 세다베 라마 투베 온거들 양조 공부시 조스잡쇼 공부시 조스잡
So bring our mind again to focus on the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha, the space in front.
다 된데 투베 온거데 아니 저거 나라라시 뭐 공부시 어들리자
And ourselves completely lacking any inherent existence.
라마 투베 온보에 나라라시 뭐 공부시 어들리자
And the Guru Manindra Buddha, the space in front, also lacks any inherent existence.
나라라시 뭐 어들 공부시 뒤 아니 대화대 동바대 대돈니스메 이시께서 서 공부시
And from that contemplation on the lack of inherent existence arises bliss, which combines with voidness, and we abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
어디는 공부시 어디는 아니 전에 다 가져 다 가져 감소 좋아를 또 가밖에 봐야네 아니 지금 동해그라실에 밑에 버려 서로다 가져 동해 교회도 나도 잡아두지 그 동해에다 맞아 잡아두지 그 동해에 타와져 맞은 거 봐도 문에 전에 그 천지사회 기부치다 자원이네 요마 대화치다 자원이네 요마리 삼선 어떤데 공부자네 아니 예바주 코알은 예바주 연중 공부시 되네 연중 예배 로디 알랑게 지보 아니 저거 뼈마 답제치를 교수 삼선체
So contemplating the 6 realms of existence within cyclic existence, all being in the nature of suffering, that we have the suffering of chains, pervasive suffering, And particularly in relation to that third level of suffering, pervasive suffering, that unless we get beyond pervasive suffering, we can't ever experience any fully qualified happiness. And so we know that we have to gain release from cyclic existence itself. Developing that mind of renunciation is symbolized by the lotus mandala disc on our crown.
다 지난 거 초근데 여바 있네. 아니 더 유대의 주바스가 대바 두사 요마르스 가서 때내 중앙에 도왔어. 때내 중앙에 이만나 유대의 마주에 다 되고 요르스. 와다들 공부하시는 유대의 주바들 가서 됐다. 두천사의 요마르 서바 코다 저거 공부하시네. 와들 이제 가자가장들 로도샤. 아니 디 어서 가서래다 가자제 근데 예배 로데 님의 경우 약강하지. 아니
And then in reflecting how all inner and outer phenomena lack any inherent existence, even at the atomical level, therefore, they have to arise in dependence. Therefore, they cannot be independently arising. We can see that lack of objective existence, even bringing it down to the mere negation of the object of negation, is symbolized by the sun disc mandala seed at our crown.
지난 이된 두바 두자 매바 임바 인사 다 주에데 때내 중하면도 외범민도 다 때내 중하 임바 인도 다 문에지 가서데 지금 때내 임바 인사 오다 타바다 탐지 좀 봤을 건데 오다 이 조사래 가서 디주 아니 지 가서 내종 장세 양답에 따와 아니 사주 람가 라소바 오다 되게 연대 고마 되게 이제 전 바르바셔 더도 오다 산제 고마 생겼다 바도 가서도 다 가지 주여서나 주대다 제고 산제 고마서도 오다 유머 태준 자원이네 미도 근데 이번에다 다 근데 국업 제반에다 산제 고마 맞는다 가바티 그래 라시 니가 된 타바 치바지 두마도 직사 말에 된사 된 뉴안이도 좀도 왔지 삼사지 공부시 아니 되는 예배게 아니 dum바디 아니 다외 경우 약하지 준 님에다 내서 삼사지.
And so this lacking any objective existence, of course, it immediately implies that phenomena arise in dependence. Dependence upon cause and conditions, for example. So this means that I can actually accumulate all of the causes that will lead to enlightenment. Accumulating the causes for the perfect ethical conduct, the correct view of emptiness, and the mind of enlightenment, the 6 perfections, and to proceed along the 10 paths and the 5 grounds. All of which can rely on within that relationship of dependence, depending on the causes, the virtuous causes that can be accumulated that lead to that particular virtuous result, and that in this way I can really fulfill the purpose of myself and all other sentient beings. That it's all made possible because of this dependent nature of reality. And that is symbolized by the moon disc mandala seed.
我到底知道半点这个，那么不是大概就我表面的，可能是不故事推荐我说这都说的钱呢，啊呢让给东个那个了，那么特别红不的，啊呢这个告诉的当兵告诉拍，你们告诉书，书面告诉电子群呢，三节恐怕嘛都我的这送那高空。
And then, O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed, placed here on my crown, keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation of the supplication verse, the invocation verse, the Guru Buddha moves from the space in front. At the end of the second, they arrive at our pre-prepared seat, and at the end of the third, we have the assurance that they will remain until we attain the state of enlightenment ourselves, and we can rejoice in this.
我大感觉这个初三就这样子的养老多每天在这么批，我在这样参加我的就他们给我的，他们大概讲就请我30%就全部都推到上中，一旦过了这那么这那个你养大养没事养老多每天在这么批，我在讲
And so that of course, then in order to accumulate positive merit and to purify negativities, we offer the practices of the 7 limbs and the mandala practice at that time.
我在讲，真的研究恐怕学有真的研究个逻辑恐怕些研究甚至恐怕些，但那个逻辑你们研究个你们的逻辑，你看说的那个。你个别嘛，你的别嘛，大家就就说上次讲，经常有点多，队长要我嘛，就是扩大说了公巴些，的，我说的这个，这可是你们看，这可是你们落地，你们经过两行话去别的，你说是不是？真的，大概讲甚至他们这个都是3节课，你完全都嘛都他们都拖把几个人是不是别公巴些？这个对不对？大概经过两行话就是这，半天在那么不是，大概你个别个可能故事推荐我这再都说的叫，就让个基本的嘛，就越些个那么讲的，那么特别我基本的嘛是这。你别告诉说，是别个等着3节课嘛，我接送考过，让你别嘛等这的，马做那就人家的第一个都多几考不正啊，不是看见，第一他我都。对面正啊，大家头我们忙说，对面大家头我们忙说，大家头我们忙的说，是不送个过来。今天就是讲别个说，我们阿拉伯在哪地的，我们阿拉伯在哪地的，我们阿拉伯在哪地的，恐怕些。今天这个说啊，我们也得往这嘛，上班那也说啊，我也得往嘛，上班的说我们也得往上班那也说啊，是不送过这个，今天就恐怕些。
And then we reflect again on renunciation and how all of cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering and how we must gain definite emergence from this state if we are to experience any genuine lasting happiness. And this brings forth the symbolized by the lotus mandala seat now at our heart center, and how all inner and outer phenomena lack any objective existence. And we get to the point of that mere negation of the object of negation. From there arises the sun disk mandala seed, and how we can, on the basis of the dependent nature of phenomena, quickly attain a state of enlightenment, give rise to the mind of enlightenment, and which is symbolized by the moon disk mandala seed. Again, the invocation verse, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." At the end of the first recitation, the figure of the Buddha on our crown moves down through the crown chakra into the central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat at the heart center. And at the end of the third, we have the assurance that they will remain until we attain the state of enlightenment. And at this point, we can rejoice as the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white 5-pronged Vajra. And then surrounding the package, there are 3 mantras: the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha going in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction.
我这是他让那么个这让个多个那么多个我们那么的，古松的了，为啥把那么让个基本呢？刚这个把了，为啥抽把了的呢？他妈没有对吧？这开发对呀，就每个就不过出征在开发了说吧，他才点成啊嘛，点他妈没有是吧？他每个就不过出征他这边看了嘛，他那些看了嘛，都你把跟着就稍微一点呢，把脏就打着，说上在恐怕些，当然这个。才掉成个嘛，点个托没办法，你搞错了，说那个多巴的口啊，讲究什么老巴的口啊，上个当这的口啊，老说们，你把跟着稍微有点把脏是打清楚是不是这？当然这个可说了，他这个牛头三节恐怕托巴了，但我就看这个绿的当高的，扎龙体里卷没把过的，就是，那因为这个绿个那个生活东的，就是靠嘛你我扎龙体里卷，看着就要有那边。장치 다고 중수 상사자 하도도 뉴도 산제 고마토 발라 담에게 나셔도 다 교연이 뭐였어? 담에게 나셔 교연 탐자 다네 가나타자 다바란 잡아시 차수 성사자. 난다네 소지 신도 저 롱의 일랭게자. 라마샤자스가 고대 현지 지금 전에 소소리도 라마샤자스 고려 주도. 소지 신도 세 차여 셈데. 라마샤자 일랭게자 라마샤자스가 투들 현지 지금 전에 랑게 셈데 라마샤자스가 투를 주. 랑게 롱아에서 라마샤자 구성도 뭐 이메 주소 대화대 대화도 대도니스메 시켜서 삼사자. 랑내서가 내대 내가 교연 탐자 되는 라마샤자스가 다바시도 주소 삼수고마샤.
And so then from the Buddha within the lotus petals, light waves begin to emanate and indeed permeate out through all of the out of our body, from every cell, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, and exacting a purification of all negativities accumulated since beginning this time, focusing on the negativities of the 10 non-virtues, of those negativities accumulated in this life, in the life prior to this one, prior to that one, etc., going back to beginningless time, all the naturally occurring negativities and all those negativities prescribed by the Buddha, and they also any infractions of the 3 vows, the sets of vows, the 30Oct22 vows, the Bodhisattva vows, and the tantric vows, indeed all false, that they that kind of really impacting on our capacity to engage in pure spiritual practice, being a disease or a sickness of the body or the mind, that all of that is completely rectified and we're rendered really pliable for practice. That also the channels, winds and drops and the elements in the body are all rebalanced and again purified. That the biggest problem for our being able to quickly attain the state of enlightenment, being ordinary appearance, is completely put aside for pure appearance. And then through the combination of my own more subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own more subtle mind and consciousness acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. Now I see myself when body, speech, and mind is inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. This brings forth a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. The place I am in is also transformed of all fault and is completely purified into the palatial abode of an enlightened being.
랑 라마 샤자스 구송도 뭐 예매 주어디 나라라 심에 봐 공부시 아니 디 두갈래 라마 샤자스 이제 빠도 매버 섬제가 자든지 뭐 파트 와라 때네 라마 샤자스 게 차상와를 섬제를 티발라 때네 대다 단자야 라마 샤자스 게 꿀라 교수 구수도 뭐 예매 교수서 대다 내사가 내 대다 뇌가 교연 터졌다 라마 샤자스 게 다베시도 교수 섬자 다 섬제 담자 가서다 라마 샤자스 게 아니 거서도 고마로 거기에서 오다 님은 드린 것도 손을 가와고 다 드린 야고 쉬우 좀서 다 문에다는 되게 된다도 드린 좀서 삼사적 가고 아니 심지어 당자 라마샤자 생각 고마로 거봐 뒤에도 수수 개와 가지고 두근 소소도 잡아가 아니 유대는 좀 뒤상 요 말이 섭섭서 뒤에 동바디 대화디 동바디 대도 니스뭐 이시 계속 서서 고마차.
And then seeing myself as completely inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha, and also completely lacking in inherent existence, I send out rays of light from my own heart center, equal in number to all of the beings in the 6 realms of existence. And upon dissolving into them, they are completely transformed into Buddhas, into enlightened beings themselves, and that the place that they are in is purified of all faults and becomes the celestial abode of an enlightened being. At this point, I can completely rejoice how wonderful today is the day of being able to lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment as my long-term objective. This is really, really amazing. Having said that, I know that this leading of all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the virtue that has facilitated that, and myself as the agent of that virtue, are completely empty of inherent existence and are merely imputed by thought. This brings forth a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
Oh yeah, what the legend? Or that and that may buy each other. When I call it the level of the coil, Yomar, in a yata, the day Yola, Sosa Sanja Kumaton Tabato. Sosa Sanja Kumatobala, and the Tony Nijin, which a lamp Gula Tenguto. The day you buy in Zata, Takarichi Slavna, Langarazuki, and the Chikaso de Tachi, Kibuchunata, Tubuchunata, and the Toy inata, Deva inata, Sawa inata, Yava ina, Cholam Namshi, Kadeshi by ina. 아니 저기 가서도 경과 차바 이나다 다 저기 내가 근저지 차바 임바 이나야 상년 대도 근저 차바 임바 이나야 아니 차바 이나야 타마 치바 임바 이나 대다 단자 아니 저기 돈이니지 닝고 저거 람귤에 계획이 아니 저 가서도 튕겨로 줘도 왔지 돈이니지 닝고 저 람귤에 계획이 아니 튕겨로 줘 계획에 저 튕겨로 줘베기 아니 줘도 왔지 기타 가서도 줄로 모아지 와서 배주제네 안 들을 조투가 지혜지 어디서 뭐지
And of course, that we're operating at the level of aspiration and imagination here. This simply doesn't occur as easily as we have imagined it here. Yet, when I'm dedicated with absolute sincerity that this may be made manifest as quickly as possible, and also with the knowledge that in order to do that, I must be able to instill every moment with the mind of emptiness and compassion as much as I possibly can. That this is because it is absolutely necessary to attain a state of enlightenment in order to bring this about. And therefore, it's absolutely necessary to instill every moment with that emptiness and compassion. In all instances, whatever positive or negative, whether I'm sick or old or even at the point of death, whatever arises as good or bad, and that I can see it all as conducive conditions to lay down the causes of this path, the causes that are imbued with emptiness and compassion. And I will vow to do that as much as I possibly can, knowing that it is the essential foundation for that attainment of enlightenment for the benefit of all.
拉里拉维高维西安的，佩达的我马路中原呢，这里是我的真家族，下边是的巴多的牛肉一没有没有这位。
罗
桑
下
来说，没有没有这是我不讲没有。
刚
天
天被诸天都高，龙山这边下来所的没有我不讲没有 刚天被诸天
所
高，
罗山这边
下
所边。
You are a beloved Ishvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Tongkapa, crown, jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losang Drakpa at your feet, I make request.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.